Morning, folks. Phil Gallagher here. It's not D&T time today. It's Loam time today. Um, so I posted kind of a decently long Twitter rant the other day about like how do I attack this format when Delver's so good right now. I suppose that's worth like actually throwing up on the screen here. So like the shortened version is that I feel like the Delver decks are more or less better than they've ever been. Like, maybe even including Deathrite Shaman era. I don't know, like that's questionable. I'd have to sit down and think about it. But like Chalice isn't a game-ending card versus Delver anymore. Delver has answers to things in the main deck, like Merit Lodge and Ensnaring Bridge, that previously, like, oh, that got in play, it's game over, we're done here. Goyf is crazy good right now, and trying to hate on Goyf, like, via things like Rest in Peace, actually just, like, doesn't do anything against the entire other side of their deck. The strategies that used to just absolutely crush Delver, like Thalia, Rishadenport, Wasteland, sorts of things, where you constrain Delver on their mana and they flop around and die, that's not working anymore. Trying to go bigger than Delver doesn't really work either, because if you take too long to set up, like their Delver and Tarmogoyfs will just like turn sideways and kill you, and you run into things like Daze. And after kind of posting this and getting a lot of thoughts from people, Connor, Lomerboy, sent me a list that I thought was really cool. And he said he was like 6-0 versus Rug Delver as of right now, and the matchup just absolutely felt like a buy. So I wanna give this a shot. So we are essentially a Naya Life from the Loam W&6 value deck, where we're probably just planning to turn creatures sideways most of the time to win the game. Like large Knight of the Reliquaries and Elvish Reclaimers can take over a game pretty easily, but we also have the backdoor win of just assembling the Dark Depths combo, which I'm a pretty big fan of right now. Delver does have answers to it, but if you're constraining them via like removal while also ignoring their wastelands, having creatures that will be bigger than their Goyfs or Mandrels or whatever, it seems like you're in a pretty good position to like bully them. And I think that's where I want to be in a deck right now. I want something that has a great Delver matchup in this metagame. And I don't mean a good matchup. Like, I want to get paired against Rug Delver and go like, okay, I've won this round. And Death and Taxes is not that deck anymore, unfortunately. That matchup has shifted way too close to even for my comfort level these days. So instead, I'm going to be experimenting with some other things. We do have a few utility lands. So if we take a look here, there's a Blast Zone, Arbor, Bojuka Bog, Caracas, Steppe, 2 cycling lands, and Wasteland. So we have a decent package. I am Falcor. Good job on your F&M win with blue-white taxes. I've had some fun messing around with... Oh, sorry, just woke up, blanking on the name. The Spirit, colorless, white, blue, counters a spell when it enters the battlefield. I've had some success with that card in Legacy, and I think that card is probably great in Modern. And I'm just totally forgetting its name. Spell Queller. Thank you. Spell Queller is what I'm thinking of, Sword Equip. Do you mean Charming Prince? I assume the 2 mana enters the battlefield, you can gain life, scry, or blink something. Yeah. Okay, looking at the sideboard of this deck, we have some anti-combo hate cards, since we're really looking to out mid-range most of the other decks of the format. Like, we have the Singleton Gaddock Teague as our hate card for decks like Storm, so like we can have a backdoor I win via Green Sun. But we're generally not looking to beat combo game 1. That's not what we're trying to do with this deck. And we have a handful of cards for specific matchups. We have Blasts for blue matchups, we have Choke for blue matchups, we have Nissa for grindy control decks. We have Force of Vigor for things like Red Prison that might otherwise present a problem. And then for those random artifact decks we're seeing, we have a Silver Bullet. So let's go ahead and jump into a Legacy League and see how we feel with this deck. Some updates in the life of Phil. Apologies for not having as much content as usual up lately. I ended up being recruited for a play kind of at the last minute. One of my friends needed a bit part to be filled. And I was like, yeah, I can probably do that. And then I didn't realize that they were going to have practices 4 or 5 days a week and then like 5 performances. I thought this was just going to be a small commitment since I didn't have very many lines. I was very wrong about that. So the next 2 weeks will be a little bit crazy for me as I go through and do that. So I'll be adjusting my stream schedule to try to work around that the best that I can. This is probably fine. Yeah, I pre-recorded a lot of daily D&T, so that hasn't been an issue. And I'm glad you're enjoying the daily D&T. I tried to make some of the daily D&T deck lists interesting, and I've gotten a lot of cool comments on the video. So this first Green Sun needs to be for Dryad Arbor to accelerate me into this night. Hopefully, if I draw another land. My opponent gave me the Maverick question mark in chat. Ish. If I don't draw a land, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do next turn, like whether I'm going to just play the Tranquil Thicket or whether I'm going to play the Dark Depths. There's some awkwardness about my hand in that I don't have the red source available if I do draw a Wrenn and 6. Second Dark Depths. So I can Green Sun for 1 for an Elvish Reclaimer. Play Tranquil Thicket tapped. So I can guarantee my knight next turn, hold a Dark Depths in hand to rotate it away at some point. I don't exactly know what my opponent is playing. But I think making the plays that will open me up to having the most mana in the mid-range is probably going to be correct. Sorry, not in the mid-range, in, like, a medium time span. Okay. So, if I play Dark Depths and Knight this turn, I can have the... No, I can't have the combo next turn. Or no, I can, because I can get the stage with the Knight and then hold up Reclaimer as well. There's an argument for just using Reclaimer here so I don't potentially walk into a Force of Will. I'm going to finish my thought even though it happened. My reasoning being that if my opponent is on Sapphire Medallion, I'm probably going to think that there's some sort of weird janky combo deck rather than a control deck. I have no real idea what Sapphire Medallion is going to be representing here. Oh, maybe my opponent's some sort of like draw 7 combo deck with Echo of Eons and a whole bunch of Narsets. So this turn, I think I will just hold up getting my Thespian stage via Elvish Reclaimer rather than doing anything else here. And I'll sneak in a hit on Narset with Dryad Arbor. My opponent is making jokes about how I won't figure out their deck if they just concede game 1 now. Another Sapphire Medallion. Okay. You have my curiosity. And we'll be sacrificing the Tranquil Thicket here to put that in the graveyard so we can potentially loam it back later. So it might just be correct to go and make this thing main phase. No, I have Jace the Mind Sculptor to think about. So I have 1 to activate. I have 1 extra mana available. I can't really play this. I could play Green Sun for Gaddock Teague. I don't know what I'm stopping, though, by doing so. And I know my opponent has a Force of Will as well. So we're gonna turn these sideways, sneak in the 2 points of damage, and go from there. Oh. Okay. So I was kind of right in that it's trying to break parity with Narset. But I don't know. Like, it feels like they've had plenty of setup time, so if they were going to do something crazy, it feels like it should have happened by now. Okay. It's some sort of taking turns deck. So my opponent has to try and win now. They get to look at some extra cards each turn with Dictate. And they have just conceded to the 2020 Tentacle Monster. That is understandable. Okay. Choke seems great. The blasts seem great. And then I guess we run into some questions of, like, do I want to try to hate on this Sapphire Medallion sort of stuff? I don't think I'm going to need Swords to Plowshares. I don't think I'm going to need Maze of Ith. I'm not even sure that I need Sajiri Step. My opponent might have some sort of Echoing Truth stuff, though, so like maybe I want to keep that around. Crop rotations are kind of medium. I think... Alright, so I'm going to think about removing those. I guess I'm going to keep the Teague because it'll stop a bunch of the Time Warp effects. And maybe I should trim a little bit of this stuff. Like, I can't recur Wastelands effectively. Boss gets some sort of taking turns deck. So, I think I'm going to cut a Wrenn and 6. I think I'm going to cut the crop rotations versus counter magic. That gives me 4 slots available. So let's play the 4 cards that will hate on their cantrips and call that good. Yeah, like I tried something crazy the other night with my Pithing Needle Stompy. It didn't work out, but I have absolutely no regrets in submitting that that deck list for the Legacy Premier League. I wish it would have gone like just a little bit better, because in goldfishing that deck, I did some all right, that's cute. Because in goldfishing that deck in preparation for the tournament, like things looked real good. Like I was making crazy sized constructs quite quickly. I think I'm gonna get some basics here and just play around like some sort of back to basics effect that otherwise might get me. All right, force, pitch a Snapcaster. We'll try the Thalia again next turn. Do I have no 1-drops in my deck right now? Since I boarded out the crop rotations and the swords? No, I still have 3 Elvish Reclaimers. So that's not dead, but it certainly is not strong. Alright, so we have resolved a Thalia. We're ahead of the opponent in terms of mana development now. So, like, these two essentially negate each other. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Lord Darkview, is this what you like to see? This is what I like to see. Uncounterable choke, tapping down 2 of the opponent's lands. And now we start, like, turning a Thalia sideways before just, like, recurring Tranquil Thicket with Wrenn and 6. This is good stuff. GG's. Oh god, Mystic Sanctuary is an island too! That's the whole point, because it's fetchable. Oh man, I was bullying even harder than I realized. The Time Warp Mystic Sanctuary idea is super cute, though. Like, I don't know if it's competitive, but, like, I understand wanting to muck around with that. All right. So this deck is definitely catching my attention here. Huh. Opponent says, "Man, here I was hoping to not play another match against D&T." So I was gonna mulligan this hand, and then they said that, so I bet Wasteland is good against them, so I'm gonna keep this hand. Alright, come on, non-basic lands that I can just Wasteland into oblivion. Non-basic. Fudge. Alright. Our hand is now officially bad. I regret nothing. Do I want a Green Sun for Elvish Reclaimer just to do something with my mana this turn? I think I do. I'm gonna do that off the stage. And I don't think my opponent is going to be playing Wasteland. So I'm going to get my red source now. This card is way more obnoxious than it looks, by the way. Like, it doesn't look all that scary, but it can take over games. It's slow, it's a little clunky, but boy, it does work. Really thought these Wastelands were going to be good. Was wrong. Okay, so which mode makes a flyer? It's sacrificing a servo. So just like going and getting my 2020 Monster Man should be good enough to aggro through this game. Like, we can have Swords to Plowshares to worry about again. But outside of that, things should be pretty good. All right. So there's a choice to be had. I can either just like answer the Mentor this turn, or I can make a 2020 this turn. The artifact is Retrofitter's Foundry, which can be used to make a whole bunch of tokens. I feel like if they have... If they're willing to just tap out for this Mentor, I feel like they have access to another Swords to Plowshares effect. At the same time, if they have a Swords to Plowshares effect, why don't they just snag the Knight? All right, let's remove the Mentor. Let's start there. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and cycle this. Or no, I guess I can just like play a land, pass the turn, and then leave up the ability to Dark Depths combo. Yeah, let's just do that. Sorry, I had Elvish Reclaimer in mind for a minute there, where it would be entering tapped. Absolutely, that thing is legacy playable. It doesn't look like it should be legacy playable, but against like slow mid-range decks and control decks, it does a surprising amount of work. Oh, okay. Yeah, so like just imagine you're playing something against something like say Red Prison, where the game is just like dragging on and on, your opponent like thinks they have you locked out, and you just start making a whole bunch of tokens with all of your leftover mana. That can be really powerful. Or you're playing against a control deck that can't answer this, and it's just like, oh man, it's just a creature or two every turn. Or against something slow like D&T, it's just like, hey, I'm just going to keep making bodies with this thing that are bigger than the bodies that are in your deck. It's a little bit obnoxious. So I don't have a perfect feel for what my opponent is doing, but they're at least somewhat controlling and at least somewhat token-based. My Swords to Plowshares are going to be good against Mentor, but maybe bad against most of the tokens. I don't think my Teague is going to be particularly great. I don't really know that I need to be, like, Bojuka bogging to blank Snapcaster Mage. I probably don't need to be Maze of Ithing. So I think I'm probably going to end up trimming those lands. And, like, potentially I'll junk the crop rotations against, like, opposing counterspells. And I might be willing to trim, like, a Swords to Plowshares or one of my graveyard-based enablers. But let's start with these. I like chokes. I probably like Nissa. Although maybe this isn't quite controlling enough for me to want to do that. The awkward thing is, like, if I board in Nissa, I maybe... So if I board in Nissa, I probably want to board like this. If I don't board in Nissa, I maybe want to do, like, Thorn, Thalia, or something like that for my remaining cards. Actually, the Collector Oof is probably pretty good, too. Just, like, shut off their retrofitter whatevers. Actually, I have Knight of Autumn as a bullet for that. Like, maybe that's enough. Not 100% sure on my boarding, since I'm not 100% sure what my opponent is doing here. So let's try this as a starting point. We have what I think is a medium to medium minus hand that I'm going to go ahead and keep. I will probably just play out Windswept Heath and pass the turn to just hold up the Pyroblast. I don't think this is a, like, I need to jam as quickly as possible matchup. I think I can take the time to play conservatively. I'm just gonna take this trade here. Use my mana efficiently. I think I want Taiga. So I'm just taking this trade here purely for mana efficiency reasons. My opponent's very resilient, or sorry, very resistant to like the wasteland side of my deck. So this green sun probably wants to be cast for one more mana in order to get Knight of Autumn and blow up the Retrofitter Foundry. Oh, I have my basics in hand. That's why I can't go and find them. All right, no basics it is. Should we get a plateau onto the battlefield? Let that get some legacy action. All right. Let's just turn this sideways. Then we'll play a post-combat knight. So just like making a note of what's going on here. I have, like, assuming that this servo is not in the way, I have like a 2-turn clock in play just with how big my things are as of right now. All right. I need to confirm that I have another red source in my deck. So I have Plateau, Taiga, Taiga. I do have another fetchable red source in my deck. So I can cast Green Sun for X equals 3 with Red Elemental Blast backup. Well, so much for that, I guess. We're not I don't have a cradle. I don't have a cradle. So my opponent can sacrifice the servo by paying 1 mana to make a 1/1 flyer, but then they can't make it into a 4/4 because they don't have enough mana to untap it. Yeah, okay. So we are safe to just turn both of these sideways. Okay, well, I guess that's something that punishes me for tapping the knight. That makes me feel good about not just going all in on, like, trying to produce a Merit Lodge as quickly as possible. Yeah, this is fine. Like, we're going to get to Red Elemental Blast that. Alright, so I think my wasteland is of limited utility. So let's just get that into the graveyard, grow my stuff here. We're going to go ahead and attack and try to kill the Jace, get this servo off the battlefield. No force of will, please. Nice. So now we have 9 damage on the table and or the ability to just produce Merit Lodge at will. Not sure how I feel about my opponent's fetch and then cast Brainstorm. They knew the top card of their deck still as presumably something that they did not want. But I don't know that they can afford to Brainstorm lock themselves when, like, we're this close to potentially the end of the game. So Retrofitter Foundry is going to provide a whole bunch of chump blockers for my opponent. I'm not sure, but I kind of feel like I'm supposed to just go for... Sajiri Step can't protect from artifacts, or colorless, though. That's something to keep in mind. Maybe it's correct to just keep turning creatures sideways. My opponent has this Brazen Borrower that they can just cast, and it can only block, essentially, my Merit Lodge. So it might just be correct to just keep turning my current threats sideways. Not 100% sure here. I think I'm going to hold back for a turn and leave my options open. Holding back for a turn also allows me to... I was about to say play around a Snapcaster Mage, but that's not true. That's slightly annoying. Man, I just brain farted through that. I should have fetched up Sajiri Step in response to that and given Pro Blue. I've got to tighten up a bit here. Okay, well, we'll save something else instead, it appears. Another thing I can start thinking about is just like blast zoning away the retrofitter foundry. Oh, that's a fine draw. All right. So we'll take the Jace off the battlefield or the servo. Then we get to slam 2 like A plus quality cards given this board. My opponent has no cards in hand. Pretty happy about my position now. Like we're threatening like W&6 to just ping the servos. And this Sylvan Library is absolutely going to go ham. My opponent has no ability to pressure my life total as right now. Okay. So we can cast Knight of the Reliquary and Green Sun for X equals 3 if I take all of these. So I will keep all of these. I don't want to click on the wrong card here. Knight of Autumn. Knight of Autumn blows up Retrofitter Foundry. That means that this is my opponent's last chump block with a servo. Or wait, they can untap and make one more. So I am just presenting lethal for my opponent. Potentially. So I'm just going to confirm this can only block creatures with flying, so that's not going to be an issue. Ooh, they have another... Oh, an Astrolabe. That's not bad. The more chump blockers for them, the better at this point. I'm also not 100% sure if they should have cast that Brainstorm there, or if they should have held that to do it at instant speed on my turn, when increasing the power and toughness of their creatures could be relevant. I guess if they brainstorm, they can find another Retrofitter Foundry to play out. Alright, and they've also played out a land, letting me know that they have nothing left. So I will be Swords of Plowsharing this Monastery Mentor. That's 100% going to happen. And then I'm not exactly sure from there. I don't want this Horizon Canopy. That can go on top. I'm thinking about the Dark Depths though. They get a turn of relief. Actually, if I just keep Dark Depths and Swords to Plowshares, I can make a Merit Lodge end of turn. They'll try to block it with Brazen Borrower, and I just Swords to Plowshares that. It could just be correct to not remove the Mentor. That's interesting. I could potentially just die to the monk tokens though if I don't answer the mentor. I think I'm gonna go for the kill. Can I go for the kill while also playing this out? I think so. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Mm, okay, that's that's a little problematic. That means that I don't just have a guaranteed kill anymore. So does that change anything? Yes, that probably means that I do want to remove the mentor now. So I know my opponent has Swords to Plowshares. I know they have access to this Brazen Borrower. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a Thespian stage here. I think. So I get a Thespian stage, and then I have 3 mana available. No, I can't get Blast Zone and copy it this turn. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and get the Blast Zone still. Let's get this Sajiri Step out of here. We'll get another land. We're going to take a Thespian stage with this. My opponent can use the Swords to Plowshares to remove one of my knights if they want, but it still leaves them with a lot of problems. We're going to gain the ability to Thespian stage my Blast Zone so that I have a Blast Zone with 0 counters on it, and then I can sweep all of those tokens out of the way and just swing for lethal with 1 Knight and Elvish Reclaimer. One thing I am going to need to keep in mind is that if I sweep with it on 0, it is going to remove my Mox Diamond. Life from the Loam? What does that do? It lets me rebuy Sajiri Step. I don't have a Cycle Land in there or anything. I don't think Life from the Loam is actually all that valuable. Let's put that back. Let's put that back. All right, now what is the next question? I feel like I can just turn the knights sideways and try to kill my opponent. So either knight connecting with them would be lethal. Because I can put 3 lands into the graveyard this turn very easily. I could put in Stage and Depth by creating a Merit Lodge. I can sacrifice a Blast Zone for 1 and just try to kill my opponent. I can also, like, Elvish Reclaimer a land into the graveyard. So the knights need to attack my opponent. So that'll attack them. That will attack them. Then, do I want to hold back the Reclaimer? I feel like... So, Penguin, thank you very much for your continued support. I feel like I could probably safely send both of these creatures at Jace to try to kill Jace. Let's try to work through this board. Well, this was about the worst case scenario, but I think this is actually fine in the grand scheme of things. Like, it definitely sucks. I lose the Knight of Autumn for free, and I'll lose the Elvish Reclaimer trading it for a monk. But I think it just means that my opponent is dead, since I have the Life from the Loam on top of my library. So, like, we drag this over, we kill a monk. I play a Reclaimer. I pass the turn. My opponent will probably play their entire turn like Brazen Borrower blocking Merit Lodge is the plan, and then they'll then they'll uh, bu- 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 like leave themselves in a spot where I might just get to like get them. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean they can clock me pretty quickly here. Okay, I'm really glad that they targeted themselves instead of me because I'm pretty sure I left my Life from the Loam on top of my library rather than an extra one down like I should have. I will keep the one without counters on it. What a crazy, crazy game. There's nothing that can go wrong here. GG's indeed, friend. Didn't really expect that much of a grind out of that match. I think I played that one pretty well. I made a mistake, which ended up working out pretty well for me. So, like, the turn my opponent tried to bounce the Knight of the Reliquary, I just, like, brain farted and didn't protect it with Sujiri Step. But that actually allowed me to protect my Elvish Reclaimer from Magnetic Sinkhole, so I didn't actually lose out on a card on it. I actually just lost out on tempo, and I think that ended up working out really, really well for me. I also think I played that game very patiently in that I didn't just try to like turn my creatures sideways as quickly as possible, but I kind of like wiggled through. So I'm really happy with how I played that one as a whole, even though I did make some mistakes. I'm going to take 2 minutes here and run to the restroom. I will be right back, and then we'll go into round 3. Alright, I'm back. Hey folks, Phil Gallagher here. We're going into round 3 with a Naya Loam deck. We're currently 2-0 right now and haven't dropped a game. Deck list is feeling pretty good, but we've played against some non-traditional decks, so I don't want to be too quick to draw any conclusions here. Yeah, Lomerboy, the deck list feels good. Thank you very much for sending this along. I'll be keeping this hand. I'm not going to claim that this hand is without flaws. We do only have one mana-producing land, so if we were to face off against Wasteland, things would be a little bit awkward. But assuming that doesn't happen, we have great, great tools here. So I'm going to go ahead and get a Savannah with this. And we're going to try to get a Dryad Arbor friend going. We have succeeded. This is a super aggressive brainstorm. I wonder if we're playing against something like Sneak and Show, where my opponent is just trying to like assemble a combo as quickly as possible. I'll be jamming my Knight of the Reliquary this turn, in the hopes of being able to like fetch out a Caracas or something like that. All right, opponent has now played 4 cantrips. Okay, so I had the wrong read on my opponent, but my opponent did have to fetch a Tundra to do that. So I like that part of the equation. I'm going to wasteland this Tundra now. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. I'm not going to play around Spell Pierce here. Not playing around Spell Pierce means that I can potentially get one more card back. Dovin's Veto. Okay, sure. I think this Life from the Loam just represents too much inevitability for my opponent if they're on, like, a fair control deck. Yes, I will. I will redraw that. Thank you. Do I want to draw a card first, or do I just want to continue to make land drops? I think I just want to continue to make land drops. Force pitch Jace on this Life from the Loam. That seems very aggressive to me. I see. The hope is counterbalance away the life from the loam. Now here, do I want to draw a card first? Unsure. I kind of feel like I do. Nah. Hey, welcome, and thank you very much for the raid. For those of you who are just tuning in, hello, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy, death, and taxes. Today we are playing with a Naya Loam deck list. It appears that we are playing against like a counterbalance, cantrip-heavy version of Miracles featuring Predict. I think I'm just going to take a draw here. I'm also going to make the assumption that my opponent doesn't have main deck back to basics. Unsure whether or not that's actually correct. I'm not going to dredge the life from the loam here. Or here. Drawing the Sajiri step is slightly awkward. It's not bad, but it is slightly awkward. We're now going to take our Dryad Arbor attack before playing our land for turn. Yeah, so my opponent had to make a choice there about whether they wanted to get a white source or whether they wanted to, like, they couldn't fetch a white source or something that avoided Wasteland. They had to make a choice. So Trolliscat and Neon City, thank you very much for following. I hope you'll enjoy today's content. Ooh, Night of Autumn is actually pretty strong. I can't Night of Autumn and Dark Depths this turn. So I can Night of Autumn, try to destroy the counterbalance. 3 will be hard to get with a counterbalance. But my opponent also only has 2 cards. Alright, I'm gonna try to take a turn off here and go for the Night of Autumn. My opponent expends resources to answer this. Those are resources that aren't going towards beating my inevitability. Yeah, see, here we go. Alright, so they'll target Brainstorm with this. They'll try to brainstorm something to the top to beat Night of Autumn. I'll use this opportunity to Swords to Plowshares their Snapcaster Mage. Interesting fetch timing there. I think if they were going to fetch, they probably should have just fetched in response to the initial trigger, because then a 1 or a 3 on top counters something. So I feel like that's a slight misstep from my opponent. I don't think I want to telegraph that the Dark Depths combo is coming. So I'm just going to put this Wasteland in play. I also do not think that my opponent can beat me now. Yeah, Terminus destroys one of my lands. I don't really care about that. Okay. I will go ahead and dredge the Life from the Loam. I'm going to cast that. Yeah, so let's cast that. Let's target Horizon Canopy, Tranquil Thicket, and a random fetch land. Then we'll play out a Dark Depths and pass the turn. We can now make a 20/20 big tentacle monster every other turn for the rest of the game. My opponent's counterbalance previously was what was leaving that all in check. Okay, they have found another counterbalance. That's very good for them. There's also a shuffle off the ponder. I will absolutely make the call here, and do this. There's just like basically no reason not to. Like if they don't have it here, they are dead, and they took a shuffle off the ponder. Okay, like I'm fine with making them have that. We will take the dredge. Depths, stage, and wasteland seem fine here. Alright, blind 2 on top would suck a little bit. Nope, it's a Force of Will. Okay, that's great. So let's cycle this. No replacement effect. I'll play out a stage, and then pass the turn. We have 7 in hand, we don't need to discard. No need to dredge. We'll try again. So, no, this is the exile zone. All right, yeah, and we have just worn through my opponent's resources here. Great. All right, so what do I want for miracles? I want these blasts for Jace. I want these chokes. I want this Nissa. Honestly, I'll probably consider playing Force of Vigor for counterbalance. That card is really obnoxious. But I guess we only have Loam as a one-of, so maybe it's not... Maybe it was just good that game, but it's not nearly as crippling as I think it is. So then these 6 cards are things that I would think about. Alright, what don't I want? I don't want my Mazabeth. My Dryad Arbor is definitely medium in power level. I'll probably keep it in the deck. There's some cute things you can do with, like, fetching it to, like, kill a Jace or something like that. And it's still important as a piece of acceleration to let me choke on turn 2. I'll probably keep my Bog in. I'm probably going to want to cut some to all of my Swords to Plowshares. I'm potentially going to want to cut my crop rotations. I'm potentially going to want to trim some number of Knights and Green Suns as well. I don't know that I want to bring in all of these things. Like, crop rotation seems really poor in the face of counterbalance. And trimming a couple Green Suns is probably fine. I'm not sure if I'm actually supposed to board in these Force of Vigors or not. Counterbalance on 2 is sort of problematic, and more so if I'm bringing in 4 more 2-drops. But more generally, I'm not entirely convinced that we just can't wiggle through counterbalance. Yeah, I'm not sure on boarding 100% here. I think I'm probably close, but I don't know if what I did was optimal. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. Turn 1 Ren and 6 is pretty sexy, though. That kind of feels bad. So I actually think I'm going to play around back to basics here, given that I'm just, like, very easily going to have the opportunity to do so this game. Getting a white fetch will let me do so fully. Alright, you have revealed the Swords to Plowshares. The next question is, do you have the white source? You do have the white source. Alright, we are now really, really heavy on the graveyard component of our deck. So there's going to be some tension between like this Life from the Loam and the W&6 and the Knight. I think I'm just going to go ahead and jam the Knight here. Treating it more as a tutor than anything else. Like, all I need to do is get a Dark Depths. And then I feel pretty good about my life. Like, Dark Depths, W&6, Life from the Loam, like... If I can find a Dark Depths, I feel like I'm in an okay position. A back to basics. Alright. So as I talked about, we're already trying to play around that to a certain extent. We do need a white fetch to do that fully, though. Now that I know for sure that my opponent has back to basics, I will board in the Force of Vigors for the next game. Our hand is so redundant in a bad way right now. I'm going to play this Thespian stage and copy one of my opponent's... I'll probably copy my opponent's planes. No, I'm not going to, like, try Arbor Clock. I'm just thinking about whether or not I actually want to cast this Life from the Loam at all. I don't know that I need to. Like, not casting it lets me not tap these two cards in case my opponent just slams the back to basics, so I think I'm not going to cast it. My opponent is just seeing me have 6 cards in hand. So they potentially are scared of me comboing off, so I don't know that they can actually tap out. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to just take this W&6 emblem here. I don't actually do all that much with the emblem. Like, it's Life from the Loam and Green Sun that I'd get to retrace. Red Blast is relevant. Yeah, Red Blast is relevant. Okay, that's fair. I think I am going to take the emblem. It's just like so relevant as this game drags on. And now I think I'm going to go ahead and cast the Life from the Loam since I know there's a Tundra on top of the deck. Because I can just... Unlike last turn, I'm just sacrificing 1 land to a back to basics if my opponent plays that instead of 2. And I think that's pretty good. And unlike last turn, I now have a Wrenn and 6 emblem, so I can just like cast this Life from Loam from graveyard forever. So another really nice thing about my position now is this Life from the Loam plus my Wrenn and 6 that's in play, plus my Wrenn and 6 emblem, now makes it so that I'm getting a lot more utility from everything, like from all of my lands. The next question becomes, how quickly do I want to go for it here? Because I can just start Wasteland locking my opponent, or I can just go for Dark Depths every turn until they die. And both of those things are fine. The active Jace makes things slightly awkward. My Kingdom for an exploration, though. I think my opponent has to have answers to the combo right now. Like, just based on how this game has gone. So I think I'm just going to, like, guaranteed Wasteland. Let's Wasteland that Tundra. We'll try to Life from the Loam, see if it works. It does not work. There's another counterbalance there. That's fine. Pro Peeves, if you think about the math, Jace has a +2 and Wrenn only has a minus to deal 1 damage. So that plan is not a long-term sustainable plan. We will deal with Jace and counterbalance via a Red Blast once we dredge one. Yeah, there we go. Pyroblast, start by targeting the counterbalance. I'll discard this Wooded Foothills. All right, so let's see if it works the second time around before we make any more decisions. Nice, nice. Honestly, now I kind of just want to play Plateau and pass the turn. No. All right. So we can loam back 3 lands safely without exposing anything to back to basics. I'll then play out a Plateau so that I have a red source available for the counterbalance that can come down. This deck is beautiful. I don't even think I want to counter that. Like, I can. Like, they can use it to attack my Wrenn and 6 for a turn. I don't really care about that. I did waste last turn. Oh, you mean on my current turn? No, I think holding up the blast is more valuable. Yeah, sure. You target me. That's fine. You can take this Wrenn and 6. Dr. Bill, morning, and thank you very much for your continued support. I think we've got this one locked up, and we just need to like play patiently, make good decisions. Mentor's pretty good. I don't think I need to dredge anything else to the graveyard. Like, I'll just take a natural draw. Thorn is pretty hot. So I can cast Thorn, Wasteland. No, I can't. I can't Wasteland them. I can cast Thorn, play Depths, leave up a Pyroblast. Sure, like it's possible we can lose to Mentor. Mentor's a very, very good Magic card. I'm just debating whether or not this Thorn is worse for me or worse for my opponent, since I do have this like recurring Pyroblast lock. Okay, so I can Thorn so that I can play around Force of Will. Then I can Ren minus on Mentor, Ren minus on Mentor. I think I'm going to do that. Now I'm debating whether or not I want to just Pyroblast the Click. I can also just bounce the Click and hold up a Pyroblast. That's probably better. Maybe I should just permanently answer it, though. No, I'm not. I'm not going to permanently answer it. Yeah, I think I've just got this one. The biggest thing that I might lose to is just my own clock. Nature's Chant targets Thorn of Amethyst. Okay. That occurs. Alright, so the Monk token will kill that anyway, so no point in removing the W&6 right now. Now we'll just be on the let's start dark depthsing plan. Absolutely fine taking one from a mentor token. All right, and we take it down. This deck seems incredible. We have not dropped a game yet. We have an absurd degree of flexibility in options. And I just felt like I've been on the better deck every round so far. Wrenn and 6 is really good in the format right now, and we're leaning about as heavily into Wrenn and 6 as you can go. There is some tension in our deck building, in that, like, Wrenn and 6, Reclaimer, Knight of the Reliquary, Life from the Loam, a lot of these cards are all leaning on the same resources, but in slightly different ways. Yeah, so I do nothing a lot. I have the reputation as the D&T guy, right? But if you think about, like, how much streaming I do, my range is my range is actually very, very high. I don't think this hand does anything. Like, we have acceleration, but nothing to do with it. It's potentially really good if we rip a Life from the Loam or Wrenn and 6, but I think I'd rather mulligan when I'm on the play. And try to find something that's a little bit more proactive. This hand is difficult. I think this one has to be another mulligan. Because I just don't do anything. Like, I have all the mana in the world, but nothing to do with it. And I think if we face down a counterspell on the first threat that we draw, we're in big trouble. This one's going to be a keep. I'm going to send away the Swords to Plowshares that I can't cast, and I think the redundant Wrenn and 6. I'm also going to play Elvish Reclaimer on one instead of Green Sun for Dryad Arbor, because Green Sun for Dryad Arbor doesn't actually get me anywhere. Like, it's not ramping me towards another spell. I'd rather play Elvish Reclaimer and have the possibility of turning my Wasteland into a Taiga or Plateau to actually cast the Wrenn and 6. We are playing against a lot of basic island today. This is unusual. Yeah, so I think I'm just going to hold up an Elvish Reclaimer activation here and pass the turn. Yeah, let's just take a fetch land. So this brainstorm timing is representing looking for a Swords to Plowshares to remove the Elvish Reclaimer before I get another activation. Definitely a heads-up play from my opponent here. And since they played Flooded Strand, it doesn't open me up to wastelanding them. Scrubland. Ooh, we might be playing against, like, Esper Stoneblade or something. Okay, how do I want to play this turn cycle? I kind of want to wasteland my opponent's Scrubland, move to second main phase, cast Green Sun for X equals 1 to play around a potential Daze, and just get Elvish Reclaimer, and try to go for the kill. I don't think I want to activate the stage targeting the Wasteland, because I think I'm going to want to copy my opponent's basic planes at some point. We'll tap the colored source. The colorless source. Womp womp. Alright, I would say the advantage bar here goes towards my opponent. But I think if I find Life from the Loam or a W&6, things are going to be overwhelmingly in my favor at this point. Okay, yeah, so we'll pass the turn here. I'll copy my opponent's planes, and then I can cast Knight of the Reliquary next turn. I'm kind of curious what my opponent needs this black for, because I've seen them aggressively fetch it twice. No, my opponent is not Miracles. Like we've seen two different black sources here. This is not bad. I don't think it's safe to play this at this stage of the game, but it does represent a kill. I'm kind of wondering if my opponent has like Fatal Pushes in there. We saw them float a black before when I wastelanded them. So we might see like Brainstorm, Fetch, Fatal Push by Knight. All right, Snapcaster Swords to Plowshares. That's fine. Oof. That stings. Because I was going to fire off that crop rotation next turn to just, like, play it as quickly as possible while my opponent is low on cards, because them finding something like a Jace to the Mind Sculptor is just, like, devastatingly bad for me. I am going to take another hit from Snapcaster Mage, I think. So they're just gonna snap this. No, now I'll fire this off. Taking 2 a turn's fine. Taking an extra 2 damage when my opponent has another body is much less fine. Yes, the format is very fair right now, in the meaning of the word fair, where everyone is not comboing. However, I don't know that the Legacy meta is fair in terms of, like, the magic that is being played is reasonable from all sides of the battlefield in most games. Honestly, I kind of want a Mox Diamond. I don't think my opponent is going to be playing back to basics, but I'm kind of constrained on my colors, so if I end up needing... Now, playing the Mox Diamond lets my... no, I'm probably not going to need double white in return. The advantage bar is slipping away from us, but like a W&6 or a Life from the Loam is such a huge draw. We do still have 24 life, and that's something to keep in mind as well. Like, my opponent's clock is incredibly anemic. Alright, what plays around the most things here? Green Sun for 1 will let me play around Spell Pierce, and if the Elvish Reclaimer makes it around the table, it gets me the Dark Depths, and I potentially win. Alternatively, I hold this until I draw another land, and then I try to go like Green Sun for X equals 3 for Tireless Tracker, play land. I don't know how comfortable I am going all in on like the Reclaimer, sacrifice 2 of my 4 lands. Arkin, thank you very much for your support. For everyone who's tuning in now, hello, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy, death, and taxes. Today we are playing with a Naya Loam deck. We are currently locked in a tough battle versus some sort of Esper control deck. My initial thought was Stoneblade, but I'm not really seeing any of the blade side of the equation. So my opponent might just be playing, like, very, very, very heavy on answers and relatively few threats. Alright. W&6. Sajiri's Step, not great. We're going to hold that one, potentially for the Mox Diamond, or potentially to swing through the Baleful Strix if we can end up making a Merit Lodge. So, if you check out the Cardboard Live extension, you can see the deck. It is a... I didn't know that was going to be in there, too. Goodbye, Mox Diamond. Fare thee well. Knowing Wasteland is in this deck is a super important piece of information for future games, though. Life from the Loam. Dryad Arbor. Dryad Arbor is not great here. I'll play it out because it either trades with Snapcaster Mage or eats a Wasteland. I'm okay with either one of those scenarios. We need a piece of gas. My opponent's running on empty as well. But they have cantrips to draw them towards something of like a Jace caliber, which would be devastating right now. My opponent's 3 damage a turn clock is still not all that threatening. As long as they're only operating on 1 card, it's fine. But every card like Baleful Strix that gives them a 2-for-1 just represents bad things for me. 100% willing to make that trade. Taking my opponent down to a 16 turn clock here is great. All right. That is potentially good enough to get wastelanded. The next question becomes, how many wastelands does my opponent actually have in their deck? Well, we're now not copying the Maze of Ith due to that second wasteland. That's a little rough. I don't really hate this. I don't really love it, but it means that Force of Will is not going to matter after this turn. Oh man, do you have the Force of Will now? Okay, fine. I guess I can do that on their turn. Back to a 13 turn clock. But yeah, I very much feel on the wrong side of the equation here. Yikes. So, in case you're not familiar with what happened there, so that was a Teferi minus, return the Baleful Strix to draw a card, redeploy Baleful Strix to draw a card. Really heads up play for my opponent there. All right. This is a big moment. This is so huge if it resolves. We get to play it around Spell Pierce. My opponent has used a couple of Force of Wills already. Okay. Great. So let's start by pinging this. Now, I don't think I want to play out the Sajiri step. I think I'm still going to hold that. It still potentially lets me push through Baleful Strix on a critical turn. Yeah, I still get another round in the Legacy Premier League. So Teferi and Esper is kind of interesting because you can Thoughtseize at instant speed. Okay, that's a Jace the Mind Sculptor. That is absolutely terrifying. Oh man, I feel like a genius. Yeah, I took some calculated risks with the list that I registered. It didn't work out in my favor, but I regret absolutely nothing. Now that the Jace is coming, no, I'm still gonna hold this. Yeah, my draws that I received in the Legacy Premier League were significantly worse than my playtesting hand by an order of magnitude. Like in my playtesting, I was getting like Mox Opal, Soul Land on turn 1, play Master of Ethereum, like turn 2, play Urza, vomit the rest of my hand using Urza mana, and I just didn't get any hands that allowed me to do that. So Choke is going to be sweet against my opponent. Just throwing that out there. I'm starting to consider just conceding this game for time. I think with triple Planeswalker on the other side of the battlefield, I'm on the wrong side of the equation. All right. So we are going to see a Snapcaster Thoughtseize, or Snapcaster Inquisition here. Which is actually a little inconvenient, because that's a body for a third turn in a row. Which means my Wrenn and 6 is potentially just dead. I can't Maze of Ith it due to the Wasteland that's on the other side of the battlefield. And this Tranquil Thicket is not going to do anything because of Narset. So, like, I can plus get back a land, and that doesn't really get me anywhere. I probably need to minus and just kill the Snapcaster so that I don't just run into, like, Jace Bounce, but then I have nothing. I can't defend this card well. Oh, boy, this sucks. The only other thing I can do is, like, plus return... I can plus return a Wasteland. Wasteland their Wasteland. On my opponent's turn, I can cycle into Swords to Plowshares to remove the Snapcaster Mage. That may end up being my best path to victory here. It's risky. I think I am going to take that line. Did not pay off, but that card is pretty good. Not amazing, but pretty good. Teferi is a problem. Thoughtseize is a problem. Oof. So we're kind of getting out mid-ranged here. I'm going to concede this one if I don't get a reasonable draw. These games are going to go exceptionally long. Okay, my opponent's just in Fate Seal mode. At the same time, if I just spike a Depths and go for it end of turn, I could still just win this. All right, this is miserable, but I'm gonna stick it out here because I now have a way to go and play around Jace just Fate Sailing me out of the game. I think I'm also going to assume that my opponent is only playing 2-ish Wastelands and that I've seen all the Wastelands that I'm going to see. So I'm going to make a play that might look a little unusual here. I'm going to Thespian Stage and copy my Wooded Foothills. I'll use this Wooded Foothills to go ahead and fetch. Get a white source with this. And now I'll get a fresh card. Hey, that's not bad. Who knows whether it'll actually resolve? My guess is no. My life total is under pressure. My opponent still has 5 cards and 3 Planeswalkers. Life is not the greatest. Just rebuy the Snapcaster Mage to draw step Thoughtseize me. I can respect that. No draw step Thoughtseize. Okay. Oh, that's going to be Snapcaster Mage, Force of Will. Nope. Not even bothering. They have some other answer to it. Or they'll just Snapcaster Source the Plowshares at end of turn. Alright. Let's junk this one here. Okay. Source of Plowshares is not super great against what my opponent is doing. Although I may keep some to get Baleful Strix out of the way for, like, Knight of the Reliquary to, like, get in there and actually do some stuff. Pyroblast is going to be amazing. Choke is going to be amazing. Nissa is probably great. Thorn and Thalia are things that I can think about, but may or may not board in. Let's start with our lands category. I don't want Maze of Ith. I think I do actually want the Bojuka Bog this time. I think my opponent's deck is slow enough, and there's going to be enough like bouncing of Snapcaster Mage shenanigans potentially as the game goes really, really, really long that clearing out the graveyard might be important. I think I'm okay with trimming another land of some nature, though. So, like, maybe trimming my Caracas will be fine, and just, like, going down a touch in terms of mana. So this would be 59, so I can still keep bringing in more cards. The crop rotations are probably medium against my opponent's counterspells, like, once again. We want to grind them out, we don't want to sacrifice our own cards and go down too low on mana. And that means I'd kind of also still like to cut one more card so that I can fit all of these effects in there. I think I want to cut a Green Sun. Yeah, I like that idea. The Gaddock Teague's also kind of medium. Stopping Force of Will is important, but I don't know, like, it might just be like Force of Will and Jace that I'm actually shutting off with the Gaddock Teague. So I don't think I'm going to Green Sun for it all that frequently, but I think it will be important in some games. Snapkeep, this hand is absolutely amazing. We get to jam turn 1, Wrenn and 6 down my opponent's throat, and make them pass the Force of Will test. We're going to discard Sheltered Thicket here. We want that in the graveyard. We then want to fetch this turn. Because we want to return said fetch. All right. In terms of tempo, Advantage Bar is really, really in our favor as of right now. My opponent can take some of our resources, and that's fine, but we're doing really threatening things very quickly here. Again, we're noticing the tension between Knight of the Reliquary and Wrenn and 6 with this hand. But I think that's okay. Yeah, my opponent needs to keep combo pieces from getting into the graveyard. And kind of this exact sequence is why I returned Sheltered Thicket over Wooded Foothills last turn, in case anyone was curious. So let's cycle this first. We go into another land. Let's just plus, return our cycling land. We'll play Thespian Stage, pass the turn. You don't want to cycle now. The upside of cycling now is that you could potentially Mox Diamond again. The downside of cycling now is that you run into a discard spell. So this will... Oh, no, it will not just bounce my Wrenn 6. I thought that would potentially bounce it so that they could force a will it on the way back down. That was not the case. Okay. Choke will only get one land here, but I think that's fine. Let's just go for that. All right. We have choked. It's awkward in the face of Teferi, but I, again, think that's probably fine. In the short term, we have completely taken my opponent off of blue, which might be very relevant. Yeah, so they're forced to bounce that choke. And now I can consider just creating a Wrenn 6 emblem this turn so that I can Green Sun forever. Given multiple Wrenn 6 in my hand here, I think I'm okay with that. All right, so let's go 1, 2, 3. Redeploy the choke. Red. Go green. Redeploy the Wrenn 6. Plus. Return my cycling land. Play Elvish Reclaimer. This deck is stupid good. Good lord. The things that I'm doing feel absolutely degenerate. A consideration that I could make here is playing one more Green Sun over a Knight of the Reliquary, because Green Sun can be played through the graveyard with Wrenn 6 as these games go long and Knight cannot. But the inverse of that is that a Green Sun basically only gets into the graveyard if it is countered. So I guess that's kind of a moot point. So I'm just going to hit submit. This one's an easy mull. This one I will absolutely keep. I have everything I could possibly want. We'll send back one of these knights. Our hand is very slow. If our opponent doesn't use discard spells to take this choke, I love our position. If they do use discard spells to take the choke, we are threatening Knight of the Reliquary. All right, goodbye, choke. Mox Diamond is pretty good. It's in fact probably good enough that I'll play it out this turn so that it doesn't get discarded. It lets my opponent know what I drew. But the acceleration's really good with the stuff that I have in hand. I don't think I'm going to want to get rid of my lands in the soon-to-be future, so I'm just going to junk my Horizon Canopy so I don't take a bunch of damage off it this game. And I don't think I'm going to fetch basic lands this game. The reason being is that since I have these combo pieces in hand, my opponent is incentivized to keep wastelands for these combo pieces rather than use them to try to cut me off of colors. And my opponent just fetched too thin. That probably means very, very good things for me. I'm expecting something like a Teferi bounce on my knight here. Nope. Snapcaster Inquisition, which is going to whiff. Okay. Am I just going for it? Unclear. The thing about just making it right now is that it plays into Teferi and Jace, which my opponent can have. I think I just want to pass the turn, go for it end of turn, and have Sajiri's Step as protection up. That would mean that my opponent would need to have double pieces of instant speed interaction. Vindicate on my knight. So the only way that they can win the game, or sorry, the only way they cannot lose the game is if they go land into Swords to Plowshares. So that is their out. I think I like just cycling a land. No, how can I still make Merit Lodge if I... Oh, so I just, like, wait a turn? The step is going to enter tapped. Oh, right. The... Um... Yeah, I think I just make it. Like, make them have it here. If they have it, I gain 20 life. My knight is a 7/7. I can retutor basically immediately. Yeah, I think I will go for it. All right, great. Great, 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 great. Unfortunately, we did drop a game here. So the scoreboard is not flawless. Alvis played that game very, very well, by the way. Super, super impressed with their play. Daryl, it certainly feels like it. I've been pretty down on D&T. Like, I don't remember how long ago this was. Let's just look at like a random D&T deck list. I've been pretty down on D&T recently because the Rug Delver matchup is way closer than it should be. So, like, historically, the reason to play D&T, as you know, is, like, you have an absurdly good Delver matchup, and a lot of times you, like, literally have a 15 or 20% matchup advantage against that deck. And now, if D&T is favored, it's, like, maybe 5% favored. And, like, there's so many different cards that you have to worry about in different configurations of the deck, all of which are very good against you. You know, Oko can invalidate the equipment. W&6 warps your deck construction and makes you take out some of your best cards. I just haven't been super impressed with the deck. Like you can still bully Delver real good on your good draws, but when you stumble and they get ahead on board, it's been real rough. I I think good Death and Taxes players like myself, Coco Lopez, the people who are constantly playing Death and Taxes, we can still put up good results. But like for example, in the Legacy Premier League, I just felt like I could not register Death and Taxes because like I can bully the bad to medium Delver players all the time, but if I was going to be paired against great Delver players who knew I was potentially going to be on Death and Taxes and could like put additional hate and interaction in the board, like I just felt that was a no go. Yeah, I have some ideas for mucking around with different configurations of Death and Taxes, or really a Death and Taxes like deck. Um, but they're choices that will make me better against the most popular decks and make me really lose out to fringe stuff. Oh yeah, yeah, I'm still in. This hand is awkward. I don't have the red source I need for this Ren and 6, but I do have Ren and 6 Wasteland, and like crop rotation in dire emergency can just be used to get my red source for Ren and 6. I think I am going to keep this. This is a little loosey goosey. I definitely would consider registering this deck. I'm not 100% sure. I think I'm playing against Bryant Cook next round. So I'll have to do a little bit of thinking about what do I think he's going to play versus what do I think I will want to be playing. Oh, yeah, just play a Delver. All right. I don't think I want a crop rotation into days. I think I'm going to wasteland my opponent and try to like buy time for me to get towards the red source. The alternative is just like keep playing mana sources and like just play around their soft permission. I think I'm gonna take this trade. Like I'm the one who has a Ren and 6 in hand, and I was on the play, so I'm already ahead in terms of mana advantage. So I think I'm good with just like slowing this one down a bit. I'm also gonna make myself look like Maverick for a few turns. I will play out a Wasteland here. Playing out the Wasteland means that my opponent can't just like fetch to end of turn Brainstorm. It also means that I have the possibility of casting a Ren and 6 next turn through a Daze, while also holding up something else that is going to be relevant. The world where I'm scared is the world where my opponent resolves a Tarmogoyf and has Force of Will to back it up. If they wasteland my wasteland, I will crop rotation in response. Similarly, if they wasteland my savanna, I will crop rotation in response. Hey, hey, welcome. You gonna pierce me? I mean, that's resolving. We have gotten the 2-for-1 here, though. So I'm okay with this. I will probably end up wastelanding them. Like, I still have plenty of land drops to make. We are off of both red and 6 colors, which is slightly awkward. I also just think I'm going to play out my worst land here. I mean, show me Stifle. Yeah, you can show me Brainstorm all you want. The hope here is that my opponent Brainstorm locks themselves while I continue to make land drops. Badlands? Okay. So my opponent can't cantrip with this stuff. So I don't... Ah, zombie fish. Yeah, sure. That seems pretty strong. So I'm not actually walking into Daze by playing Swords of Plowshares end of turn. So I will do that. Great. Absolutely great. Since I have a redundant stage, I am just going to play that out. Yeah, this game's very strange. My opponent has also had an absolutely absurd number of lands. Okay, so this was the fear, right? Unchecked Tarmogoyf. Okay, great. There's Mox Diamond. That will get me a green sun. So the question becomes, how much do I want to green sun for? Knight of the Reliquary is stupid good right now, but if I green sun for the maximum number, I walk into a daze. So I think it's probably just better for me to cast the green sun for x equals 1, get Reclaimer, which will be a 3/4, tutor up a Dark Depths, and just like try to win the game in that capacity. No, I don't think we go for the night. I think we play around the days. Yeah, sure. If they have Abrupt Decay, it answers it either way. Like, the primary difference between getting a Reclaimer and, like, a Knight of the Reliquary in terms of, like, their removal suite would be something like Fatal Push if they can't get Revolt. Yeah, so I've cast 2 spells this game, only one of which had the opportunity to be dazed, and it wasn't a good idea to daze in that spot. So, like, when they cast the Gurmag Angler off Badlands, they could not daze. So I feel like it is just very, very correct to play around daze. We're also not going to take a block here, because we could run into something like a Wrenn and 6 or a Lightning Bolt that would just really, really ruin my board position. That's actually not a bad land. I totally accept this draw. I will just play that. Yeah, Connor, that was my thought as well. So we're going to play this game patiently. I feel like we have the win unless we just, like, absolutely go for something stupid. So we're going to get the Maze of Ith. This will bait the Wasteland on the following turn. And then we're going to have Maze of Ith to... Sorry, we're going to have Wrenn and 6 to return Maze of Ith, which will be very strong. The most punishing thing that happens is that if my opponent, like, goes for another Tarmogoyf. Okay, great. Great, great, great. Yeah, let's do this while they don't have any mana up. Again, we're a little constrained on colored mana. But all in all, I'm okay with the things that are going on here. All right? I mean, obviously, I accept that. All right, so my opponent doesn't have Spell Pierce open right now, relevantly. So I could choose to stage the Maze of Ith. I could also just choose to get rid of one of my stages right now to get the Dark Depths. And I think since I have Wrenn and 6 in my pocket, I am going to go ahead and do that. I'm actually just super happy to have drawn a land there. Well, maybe that's not true. So I can just cast the Wrenn and 6. If my opponent doesn't have Force of Will, I get to ping the Delver of Secrets. So my land here means that I am still representing an Elvish Reclaimer activation, which is pretty strong in this position. Yeah, Lightning Bolt on Wrenn and 6 is fine there. So now I'll want to get my own Wasteland so that I can Wasteland them. So even though there's a Tarmogoyf on the board, I'm technically under 0 points of pressure per turn. All right. So now we'll go activate the Reclaimer, cycle away this land. We'll go and get our own Wasteland. What do you have, friend? Double Lightning Bolt Reclaimer in response? Okay. So now I will get a Wasteland, and if my opponent doesn't, in this phase, Wasteland me, I get to combo. So they need to Wasteland either my stage or my depths here. All right, they've chosen the stage. Lol, 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 lol. All right, that's pretty great. If I choose to Wasteland my opponent, it makes it harder for me to play around future Spell Pierce and Daze effects, but it also potentially prevents my opponent from dropping something stupid like an Oko on their turn. I think I need to waste their Tropical Island to play around like Oko and Wrenn and 6. So now we're playing the Who Top Decks Better game, and I feel like the answer is me. If I get to draw Wrenn and 6 or Life from the Loam, I feel like the game's over. Similarly, resolving another Knight of the Reliquary or Elvish Reclaimer should just end things too. Okay, that's something that plays around my Maze of Ith. There's currently no life total difference in terms of clock for me, like fetching versus not fetching here. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and fetch and thin my deck a little bit. So I can interact with True Name Nemesis via Blast Zone. So it's not like I have 0 outs to this card. I'm already going to be playing around most of the soft permission that my opponent can have. So I can play around Daze on a Night. I can play around Spell Pierce on a Wrenn and 6 or a Life from the Loam. All right, what do you do with that Ponder? All right, opponent shuffled with the Ponder. I'll take it. Selection is great. Selection might be the difference between living and dying. Ooh, okay, so I wasn't paying all that much attention. I just noticed that my opponent did not fetch another tropical island. So do they only have yeah, they only have 2 tropical islands since they're 4-color. Great. Teague, not so great. You'll be going back, friend. Oh, good lord. Those are not the cards that I want to be seeing here. Yikes. I can't afford to take any damage here. Because I need to find my Dark Depths next turn. I need the Delver not to flip. And then I need to kill my opponent. So this needs to go on top. This needs to go on top. No, the issue is the Delver flipping and blocking the Merit Lodge. That is the problem with the current situation. Oh, geez, my opponent found Bolt. All right. That probably just means I'm dead. We'll see. Something weird could happen, but... Like, my opponent is just going to, like, True Name attack and then kill me. I don't think I like the timing of that Lightning Bolt. Yeah, so Wrenn and 6 can rebuy like a combo piece, but then I'll just die to the True Name Nemesis hit. It's a little frustrating. That is a disappointing loss. Okay, so I also feel like my opponent got a little lucky. I feel like I played that game very, very well. So I think I want these blasts. I think the thorns are probably good. I think the chokes are a little questionable on the draw, but probably still good. Connor, I could use advice here. You've played some of these Delver matchups already. Like, I know it's a little different since they're playing black, but like, I don't know if I'm supposed to still board in the Thalias because of like Wrenn and 6. I don't have that many X1s, so it's not as much of a consideration as it is in D&T, but like in D&T, I'm boarding Thalia out in this matchup. So I kind of feel like I don't want Teague. I feel like I don't want Caracas. Bojuka Bog seems better than normal against Delver. Yeah, Library seems bad. Tracker seems worse than just like getting a knight endgame. Do I want to junk my Knight of Autumn, or is just keeping the 4-life mode relevant enough? Oh, so I might want it for a random Pithing Needle type effect out of the sideboard. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I think I'm going to submit this. I'm also going to take 30 seconds and run to the restroom. But I'll do that once I've resolved my mulligan. No, I definitely don't want a 5-drop against like the Spell Pierce Daze deck. I will absolutely keep this hand. All right, I'm going to take 30 seconds to run to the restroom. Sorry, folks. Sorry about that. These matchups have been longer and grindier than not that I'm used to, than I was expecting going into this. I don't think I want to use this Green Sun on turn 1. I have plenty of mana. This game's going to go long. I think I'd rather keep this one for the mid game. No, I'm gonna take a slightly different approach here. So my approach is instead I'm going to use the Thorn as the bait spell for a Pierce or Daze effect. And I don't actually want this Thorn to resolve given the rest of my hand, like since I'm full of non-creature spells. But if this does resolve, it sets me up pretty well for next turn. I did have to make some strange choices in terms of sequencing here. So I chose to play my Thespian Stage in respect of Wasteland from my opponent, but doing it this way means that I cannot both W&6 and Wasteland next turn. But just kind of like talking through the other side of that, if this Thorn of Amethyst does resolve and my opponent has a Wasteland, I don't want them to Wasteland my Wasteland, because taking them off like colored lands is super valuable once this is in play. All right, Forest, pitch a Delver. Great. Boo. Not super happy to see that. Makes a lot of the rest of my hand considerably worse. Violent Creature, thank you very much for your continued support. I really appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying today's content. Alright, so now we're going to devolve into a miserable Wrenn and 6 mirror. Oh, jeez. That was something that I was afraid of. I don't really care about this Tarmogoyf all that much. Knight of the Reliquary is a beautiful, beautiful draw. Now the question becomes, am I willing to place something into Daze this turn? How big is my Knight of the Reliquary? If I play Knight of the Reliquary, since I plussed, it'll only be a 2/2 base. I can turn it into a 3/3 by fetching. So I actually don't want to play Knight of the Reliquary this turn. I want to wait a turn and put another card into the graveyard. Alternatively, I can just, like, not respect Lightning Bolt. So if I play Waste, hold it back, I can Wasteland myself to save Knight from a Bolt. I guess that's a reasonable line. The other thing I can do is just not respect Daze and play Green Sun into Daze. So that next turn, I can, like, Knight, have it be bigger than a 3/3, and also Swords to Plowshares the Tarmogoyf. What do you think about not respecting Daze to have a better next turn? Because I feel like if I Wasteland myself, I end up in a terrible position. Okay, so, like, yet another alternative line is I can Green Sun for 1 and Swords to Plowshares this turn. That's not crazy either. I actually kind of like that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. No, I'll do the Green Sun first. We get a Reclaimer. So our Reclaimer is a 1/2. So the turn that I played ultimately did play around Daze. And it lets me set up my Knight of the Reliquary to be larger than a 3/3 for the following turn. Nice. Nice. I think I'm going to play Swords to Plowshares first. Let's get that out of the way. Then let's play knight. Okay, how crazy is it to wasteland myself? To be fair, I don't think it's crazy. But it's definitely on my radar. The worst thing that could happen is my opponent like dropping a true name nemesis here. Abrupt Decay on knight is pretty annoying. Like we were trying so hard to play around removal. All right. I think I need to wasteland my opponent here to just put like lands into the graveyard to grow my Elvish Reclaimer so that I can bash in for damage here. Okay, hold on. Waste. Oh, waste. No, I've already played my land for turn. Yeah, so I guess alternatively, I just like try to combo end of turn. Yeah, okay. I regret my wasteland play now. I think I fucked that up. I think I was just supposed to like not wasteland, just sit on that land and pass the turn. Yeah, they can have like a brazen borrower or something, so I'm not like 100% in the clear or anything. They can also have crop rotation. All right, Submerge is annoying here. Yeah, you're right. I could have sacked the forest to play around Submerge. It was Plateau was my other land. Yeah, okay. They could have hard cast it. You're right. It's something I should have done though. I also should have been keeping a little bit better track of my opponent's like number of lands in hand. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to sacrifice the Maze of Ith here. I think I'm gonna just like get rid of my Wasteland and turn it into a combo piece. This Maze of Ith is valuable. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to sacrifice it. That's gonna be obnoxious. So now we're just gonna get wastelanded into oblivion. I really need to draw my own Wrenn and 6. We're gonna junk our Maze of Ith now. We're definitely losing out on the ability to use that as a true utility land. I think I'm gonna take a redraw here. Okay, that's cool. Let's do that. Please don't spell pierce me. We may get this one yet. My opponent can just abrupt decay this choke, though, so that's something I need to be aware of. Nice, nice. Okay, well that's getting rid of a lot of your resources, though. All right. Crop rotation is a medium power level draw. All right. Things are going slowly here. Again, we're still most afraid of something like a True Name Nemesis dropping. Like a Goy for something like that is fine. Yeah, the clock is a problem. I really hope we don't time out of this one because I chose to go to the bathroom in the middle of my match. Having an out to True Name Nemesis is pretty sweet. We've got it. So I get to make the Merit Lodge end of turn, and then I have Pyroblast up for Submerge. Okay, yeah, sure. You can Thoughtseize away my Pyroblast. And if you have Submerge, you have Submerge. Yeah, sure. I don't really like that I'm jamming this knight into a Daze after playing around Daze, like, basically literally the entire game. Okay, Force and Delver of Secrets. Okay, yeah, they're hellbent. We got this. Where are my Dark Depths? There it is. Oh shoot, they were at 24. I didn't realize that. Oh my god, that was game 2. Oops. I did not realize that was game 2. Man, I'm gonna lose this game for going to the bathroom. That's the worst. Rip 5-0. So I just have to go for like all in create Merit Lodge as quickly as possible, F6 through all turns. So I should cut anything that is a piece of interaction, essentially. So like I just can't afford seconds to play that. Let's play those. I mean, this matchup seems great. This does not produce Merit Lodge, mulligan. This does not produce Merit Lodge, mulligan. This does not produce Merit Lodge, mulligan. This maybe does. Junk that. Junk that. Junk that. Done. Oh, I have 1 second. All right, whatever. All right. Slightly upset at myself for like thinking I had time to go to the bathroom. But the deck is great. You know, I feel like we were very favored in that matchup. I definitely feel good against Delver. That's a disappointing end to a stream. I feel like we had that one in all likelihood. This stream has run really long, so I'm not going to do a debrief today, but I definitely think that I'll try this deck out again sometime in the future. I'm a little behind on getting to some of the donation streams and whatnot. I have a list here. Don't worry, I'm getting back to them. I will stream again as soon as I can, but I've gotten a little bit busy with the play stuff that I'm doing. Thank you everyone for who tuned in today. I'm going to turn you over to the Leaving a Legacy Open. And if you enjoyed my content today and you're not already following, please consider following. All right, I'm off. I hope you all have a great rest of the day.